Let's get cozy and settle in where we are. So welcome to our meditation time today. I would invite you just to get comfortable in your spot where you have found yourself today. And once you get comfortable physically, allow the eyes to close, which will allow your emotions, the mental parts of you to get comfortable as well. Just allowing the distractions to become less, allowing the body to really settle in and anchor. And then let's just use these first few breaths just to truly honor the fact that we have shown up. And as you breathe in, just feel that sense of expansiveness and be so affirming of yourself that you set aside these few minutes. And as you breathe out, let that releasing breath represent you turning loose of the things that invariably will try to distract you in these few minutes that we have. Use the breath as a tool. I like to think of it as an ally, just kind of protecting me in these minutes when I commit to be present and still and quiet. So just breathe and notice. And in our practice today, I'll give us some things to reflect on, some thoughts to kind of sit and to hold space, and then we'll grow quiet. And part of the growing quiet is to reflect and to sit with those things that we've shared together. But the other part of the growing quiet is that it's practice. We are practicing at being present. That is why we call this a meditation practice. It's not a meditation achievement or a mastery. We grow quiet and we practice. So just think about anything in life that you've given effort to, that you've tried to learn or tried to do. You had to show up just as we have today. You had to try to get rid of the distractions, any mindsets that might distract you, any external forces. And then you had to keep doing it, practicing and practicing and practicing. And meditation is no different. But with this practice, like I said, we have an ally, and that is our breath. And if you start to notice that your mind goes one way or goes another, or feels like it's going in multiple directions, rely on that ally. The inhale, the exhale, the calming nature of the breath. I've been thinking a lot over the last few days about the suffering that's going on around us. It's on every news feed that we look at. It's in the conversations that we have with people in our life. It's across the globe. It's next door. Maybe it's in our home. Suffering is a real part of life. And the more that we learn about this practice, we learn that one of our contributions to this world is our ability to relieve people from the effects of suffering. We can't stop the suffering, but we do have the capacity through this practice to learn how to not allow it to cripple us, to keep us from moving forward, to rob us of our joy. So I've really been thinking the last couple of days about what suffering does to different people, to different mindsets, to different even personalities, because we all respond differently. And so I would invite each of us, let's pause for just a few breaths and just think about suffering And what face has it worn in your life lately? In your relationships and in your health and in your professional life? What does suffering look like? It's not a subject that we take lightly, but it is a subject that binds us together as humanity because we all have it. And so as you kind of see the face that recently suffering has taken on, then I'd like for each of us to picture our face. Is our suffering evident on our face, or does the world see something different? Just pause and just think to yourself. When I'm going through these things, or I have gone through them, what does my countenance look like? What's the tone of my voice? What's the words that I choose? What's the amount of engagement that I have in my life with my people? And this moment here is not for us to judge how it has been to this point. It's for us to be aware of how it's been and maybe learn how to approach it a little differently the next time it comes. Because the other thing we learn about this practice is it doesn't insulate us from future suffering. The next time you're in traffic, the next time you interact with a person, the next time, there's a chance that suffering will become part of your path again. So what do? So there's a quote that I want to share, and then I would like us to really rely on this ally of our breath as we think about the role of suffering in our lives. And this quote says, "It is the perspective of the sufferer that determines whether a given experience perpetuates the suffering or is a vehicle for awakening." Just let those words just kind of sit. It's the perspective of the sufferer. So it's my perspective. It's yours. It's our perspective that will either perpetuate, meaning make it last and last and last. Or, I love that there's an or use it as a vehicle for awakening. Every world religion, no matter where you study and what you know and how you learn, is going to tell us suffering is part of life. What do you do with it? How do you navigate it? And can you use it as a vehicle for something more than just what it is? I would propose for those of us in this practice that we use it as the vehicle for awakening. We learn things about ourselves. We learn things about our world. But instead of letting those learnings cause us to feel broken or disheartened, they allow us to become a little bit more awake, a little bit more aware. So let me just pause. Let's each just continue to breathe. Because again, it is not a subject to take lightly. It is real. For some of us, it's current, it's present. For some, it's really recent. And you can still feel some of the effects. So just see as you sit, kind of how you're grappling with this idea of it being a vehicle for awakening. Just a few weeks ago, we studied during this meditation time the pillars of joy. And I don't think it's an accident that the first pillar that the Dalai Lama said began our path toward joy was the pillar of perspective. And now here we are in this quote about suffering, and the quote says that it's the perspective of the sufferer that's going to determine what happens next. And I know that each of our personalities, each of our ways of being, some of us just put our head down and we push through. Some of us take the covers and we cover our head up. And some of us are just frozen and we don't know what to do next. But I would propose that this practice is for all of us. For those that have acted by pushing through, for those that have just covered up their head and wanted to hide and avoid, and for those that froze and didn't know how to act. This practice gives us the tools that we need. And so if you're the one, and I'll tell you like I am, that tends to just put your head down and just keep forcing your way through, determined to get through this next suffering, this practice can help you to pause and to rest and to breathe. If you're one that covers up your head and just wants to avoid it, just wishing that it will go away, this practice will allow you to feel the courage to toss those covers away and see your day with fresh eyes, to see your situation with fresh eyes. And if you are the one who tends to freeze when suffering comes, afraid to go one way or the other, unable to choose, this practice will give you exactly what you need to begin to move through it. That is the beautiful thing about this. Our meditation practice gives us what we need in this present moment as long as we show up in this present moment. It's where the teachings come. It's where the awareness comes. And it's where the awakening comes. And so I say all that just to share that it doesn't matter how different we are and how we approach things. Our meditation practice gives me, Kelly, what I need. And it gives you what you need. We just have to show up, sit in the present moment, and be open to receive. So let's just sit together for these next couple of minutes, keeping that ally of your breath close by, paying acute attention to it, the in-breath, the out-breath, the pause between. And just let this idea of perspective of our suffering just sit and hold space and see what is revealed. as you continue to breathe slow, deep, full breaths in and out. We prepare to close our time together. I want to remind you that like everything in this life, suffering too is impermanent. Sometimes it feels like it will go on forever. Sometimes it feels like your heart will never recover. But it won't go on forever, and you will recover. Remember your breath as your ally. Remember your practice as your path. And then remember, you have the choice to choose your perspective. We choose it about how we see the suffering that we're going through right now. Either as something to paralyze us or something to propel us toward awakening. And the beautiful thing, as the Dalai Lama says in those great words we've studied for so long, that when you can begin to really nurture perspective, you're actually nurturing that first pillar of joy, which tells us on the other side of the suffering and this perspective, there is joy. Be kind to yourself. Live with compassion, with patience, with grace. And when the suffering seems too big and too much, you've got that ally of your breath right there with you. It goes everywhere you go. Pause. Breathe. Seek new perspective. It is there. Namaste.